Good evening. Welcome to The Big Question on NDTV Profit. I'm Vikram Oza. Tonight, India's gig economy is delivering more than just food and groceries. It's actually delivering a warning of sorts. On New Year's Eve, when demand really peaks and cities run on those 10-minute deliveries, there will be tens of thousands of gig workers who are planning this nationwide strike. So it's not a shutdown of factories, it's not a walkout from offices. What workers are calling a digital protest in a digitized world is about to play out. So this comes just days after that Christmas Day flash strike, that mob strike that disrupted nearly 60% of deliveries. And it sent food tech stocks down about 2 to 3%. It exposed a simmering fault line in India's fastest growing employment model, the gig economy. And here's the irony of it. For the first time in India's history, gig and platform workers are now legally recognized. They're now legally recognized under the new labor codes. So aggregators like Zomato and Swiggy and Blinkit and Instamart, they are mandated to contribute 1 to 2% of their turnover into a social security fund. So Provident Fund, insurance, pensions, all of these are promised under the new labor reforms. And yet the workers are angrier than ever before. Why is it happening? Because recognition has arrived, wages haven't. Security has been acknowledged under the codes, but safety hasn't come through. And algorithms are still deciding the livelihoods with the tap of a button, and I'll explain that in a minute. The code on wages is stopping short of classifying gig workers as employees, which means there are no guaranteed minimum wages. And workers are saying this is the core reason behind the New Year's Eve strike that they are planning. So then there is this 10-minute delivery model. When we're talking about the issue of security, it is fast for consumers, but it can be quite brutal for riders. And the OSHWC code, which is the Occupational Safety, Health and Working Conditions Code, is now law. But gig workers remain largely outside that safety net. So unions are demanding an outright ban, arguing that speed has come at a big cost to them. It can be brutal sometimes. And finally, the black box no one wants to open, which is the algorithm I was telling you about. ID blocks without notice for gig workers. So fewer orders after protests, what workers are calling algorithmic punishment. Some states like Karnataka are trying to fix this, but the question is, should the central labor laws have gone further? So tonight, as India's gig economy raises towards, now of course we are seeing it rise towards that 23.5 million workers mark by the year 2030. That is the kind of projection that is being made. In that kind of scenario, in that kind of projection, we are asking, has the government's landmark labor reform for gig workers failed to address the life and death reality of the 10-minute delivery model? Or is this unrest simply a growing pain as workers demand more security and platforms try to adjust to the new cost equations that are being formed into their entire ecosystem? We are going to discuss this with our panel tonight, but first let's hear out directly from the people at the center of this storm. In fact, our reporters have been speaking to them. All across the city of Mumbai, we've been speaking to workers in the gig economy, asking them what are the challenges that they face when it comes to wages, when it comes to the kind of safety issues that come up with 10-minute deliveries. This is what they told us.
हम लोग का प्रॉब्लम कोई देखता नहीं, हम लोग के कैसे खड्डी खुड्डा में गाड़ी लेके जाते हैं, ट्रैफिक में फंस जाते हैं, कोई साइड मार देता है। अभी देखो साइड मारा, हमारी गाड़ी टूट गई है, हमारे चोट लग गए। ये प्रॉब्लम कोई नहीं समझता।
हमारे कंपनी से यही है कि किलोमीटर का जो रेंज है वो पहले देता था वो दे, या हमारा जो इंसेंटिव पहले था, जैसा पहले आईडी था वैसा होना चाहिए।
सही नहीं। हाँ। मैनेजर आता ही नहीं। मैनेजर शाम को आएगा तो मेरे को चोट सुबह लगी है, मैनेजर को दिखाने शाम को जाऊँगा मैं। वो लोग इंश्योरेंस पॉलिसी का कुछ मतलब ही नहीं है, केवल दिखाने के लिए रखते हैं।
2 साल पहले पैसा कंपनी सही देती थी, ईस्ट उस्ट में जाते थे, अगर ट्रैफिक में ज़्यादा आपको कठिनाई हो तो वहाँ पैसा कुछ बढ़ा के दे देती थी। 2.5 किलोमीटर का 3 किलोमीटर का 75 रुपये 80 रुपये तक मिलता था। अब उसी जगह पे 2.5 किलोमीटर 3 किलोमीटर जा रहे हैं तो अगर दोपहर के टाइम में जा रहे हैं तो 31 रुपये 32 रुपये 34 रुपये मिलेगा, और शाम के टाइम में 2.5 किलोमीटर 3 किलोमीटर जा रहे हैं 40-42 रुपये मिलेगा।
So there you're seeing the kind of challenges that gig workers themselves are talking about. Let's break this down with our panelists. Sumita Daura is the former Secretary for Labour and Employment. She's joining us this evening, along with Sheikh Salaluddin, who is the General Secretary of the IFAT and the Founder President of the TGPWU. He represents the rights of the gig workers. Dr. Akriti Bhatia is also with us. She's a sociologist and a labor rights activist. Welcome to the show. And Madhav Kasturia here, founder and CEO of Zippy. Good to have all of you with us. But let me begin by asking you, Sumita Daura, as far as your perspective on this is concerned, when you're talking about gig workers, yes, there is a lot that is promised in the labor reforms. But when you're talking about the kind of angst that is delivering as far as the strike proposal is concerned, their protests are concerned, are we not delivering enough to them through our labor laws, through our labor reforms, when it comes to safety, when it comes to minimum wages?
Very good evening to all. You see, where gig and platform workers are concerned, it's a new dimension to the workforce. And with the digital transformation of the economy, the government also recognized the contribution which the platform workers make to the economy. If we remember the announcement in the union budget in February 2025, they were recognized as part of the national welfare system, and iCards are to be issued to them so that they can avail of the social security benefits. And more importantly, the budget recognized the contribution of the gig and platform economy. And now this was followed up in November with the notification of the court's historic landmark, and the Social Security Code defines the framework for the social security benefits for the gig and platform workers. Now, there's an institutional mechanism. There's a National Social Security Board and National Social Security Fund, as you rightly mentioned. And there have been a lot of stakeholder consultations with the associations, with the states and all the other stakeholders on what constitutes the social security benefits and how to go about this. Two important things have been achieved so far. One is the recognition to the gig and platform economy, and second, the framework of social security benefits. Now, going ahead from here, it's very important to recognize the aggregator accountability. And last year, in December last year, the Government of India had launched the aggregator module on eShram so that all the platform workers could be registered on eShram, be given a universal account number, and also be issued the identity cards, which will ensure that they get the social security benefits. And that is where I believe more than 5 lakh platform workers have already been registered. Now, as we go ahead, it's very important to implement this, and that is happening step by step, as we are all aware. Coming to the algorithms, that's an important aspect where some of the platform workers have been representing, and that's where probably a grievance redressal mechanism to bring about more fairness in the algorithms. As I conclude my remarks, most importantly, all the aggregators are not to be seen alike, and all the platform workers are not to be seen alike. It's a variegated landscape.
Yes.
Where... Thank you.
But Dr. Akriti Bhatia, by not calling these gig workers employees, you think the labor codes are normalizing the precarious kind of work over here? Is that what is happening according to you?
Absolutely, Vikramji, because I would make this point very clear that this whole idea of flexibility and self-employment is actually pretty farce and false in this case, because it's actually the companies and the platforms that are deciding the rates at which they are getting the payments, and most of the terms and the working hours are actually set in a way that there's nothing in the hands of the workers. And therefore, I'll take this opportunity to quote one of the largest studies in the world that we conducted, an organization, Pegam. It's called Prisoners on Wheels and Working and Living Conditions of App-Based Workers in India, which said that around 80% of these workers are working over 10 hours a day. Over 99% workers reported various physical and mental health issues. For delivery persons, what they were able to actually earn was just 10,000 a month. For cab drivers, it was just 15,000 a month. And even we're talking about safety here, over 50% of them reported some kind of violence at work. And if you talk about women workers, their problems are unimaginable. So this whole idea of of they not being an employee has to be actually revisited. Also, and these companies have serious issues in terms of transparency and data sharing practices. Arbitrary commissions were being deducted, and most of the workers reported that they didn't know why they were being penalized, why their IDs were being blocked. So a lot of such issues are there, and this just by recognizing platform and gig and platform workers in the social security code actually doesn't solve all of these problems. So the problems are way deeper.
Yes.
Companies, platforms have to be made accountable. They have to be made, they have to share their data in public, and the different laws that we've been fighting for, where Salaudin ji and others have been very instrumental also
Yes.
in fighting for.
But Dr. Bhatia, I'm hearing about the latest news coming through where I'm understanding that Gig and Platform Services Workers Union, which is India's first women-led national gig workers union, has written to the Labour Minister, Mansukh Mandavia, and they're seeking immediate intervention into the systemic exclusion from labour rights and social security and safety protection. Since you mentioned women, especially in the gig economy, what are the specific issues over there that need to be addressed that the reforms aren't bringing on the table?
I think, again, when you talk about safety breaches, then women workers, and if from our experience, it's mostly in the beauty work, like in urban companies, salon workers, and now increasingly about it's not just the 10-minute delivery, but also 10-minute Insta-made and the house help services, as if there are some products that can be, brought to you in just 10 minutes. So is posing huge threats. We have cases where male clients are posing as female clients and then calling them, and there are innumerable cases of harassment and violence at work. There is really no listening to their issues. There are no restrooms, no resting spaces, washrooms. So infrastructurally and structurally also, we are actually not prepared to host this, and I would again submit here that the platform economy actually could be really efficient, could be actually an employment generating space. If many of these factors are taken into account, for example, the wages, the safety,
Yeah.
and in various countries, we are not against digitization.
Right.
In fact, the
It is
idea
employment
was that
generation. Madhav Kasturia, do weigh in on this, because like she's pointing out, it is about employment generation, which is what the platforms are doing. And if at this point in time we have these problems to contend with, would you kind of say that these are teething issues that the entire business, the platform business, is kind of seeing? And whether or not these labor reforms are going to address the issue or not is the big ask.
And the question is about secure jobs, not just creating very insecure and vulnerable jobs.
What do you say, Madhav?
No, I think every coin has two sides, right? So while if you look at consumption in the last 10, 15 years, it grew. That also created a lot of opportunity for gig workers on both the ride-hailing side, whether it's the Uber, Ola, Rapido drivers, or the Zomato, Swiggy delivery riders, or the Snapbit and Pronto enablers, right? All of this entire community grew over the last 15, 20 years, right? And this created opportunity for anyone and everyone coming from the village to a city with a zero filing PAN card to just take a bike on rent or buy a bike on an EMI and become a Zomato rider or a Swiggy rider, start earning 30,000 rupees, 40,000 rupees a month out of nowhere. Now, when you see such a growth, when you see such path-breaking growth where people immediately start earning 30, 40, 50,000, and the good cases start earning 80, 90,000, of course, there is going to be some problem associated with it as the community grows. And that's exactly what everyone here is addressing, right? The social security piece. I feel all the employers, the top 20, 30, 40, 50, the Pareto, which essentially takes care of 90, 95% of the gig economy, has a very strong policy in place with respect to the rights of these riders, these drivers, these enablers on the ground. Insurances are in place, medical facilities, first aid, all of these facilities are in place. But I think what they actually want is the government to step in and put a backbone in place in terms of a law supporting the gig economy, something like the labor law, but they want a separate recognition, a separate identity to this.
Separate identity, and I'm wondering where the separation needs to come through. And perhaps Ms. Daurao can tell us, from a policy perspective, we are seeing the OSHWC code, the Occupational Safety, Health and Working Conditions Code, that has been left largely out as far as gig workers are concerned. Was that a good policy decision, you'd say?
See, we have to understand the nature of the gig and platform economy. First of all, I think we are discussing the platform workers today because we are discussing the gig workers who are on online platforms. So when we look at the platform workers, they could be in ride sharing, they could be in food delivery, they could be in e-commerce, or they could be professionals who are on online platforms, such as the Urban Company. Now, we had done a series of interactions with the big platform companies, and we saw broadly these 6 companies covered about 16, 17 lakh platform workers. We saw broadly that they had covered the workers for basically the accident insurance while they were on the job and for health. Which is why, while they were covered for insurance, we thought there were huge gaps. And this is, the work is outside the traditional employer-employee relationship. This is part of a growing economic activity where a lot of jobs are being created, as we are recognizing it in our discussions, and bringing a lot of regulation into this area where there could be big companies and there could be smaller aggregators and there could be startups that would probably, curb the economic growth of these areas. And that's something which the world over is being discussed, how to have a good balance between the social security benefits and other benefits of the platform workers while not restricting the growth of the platform economy.
Question over here, and perhaps Salahuddin can help us with this, in terms of the balance that needs to be drawn. Yes, safety, security are very important. So is that the bigger ask than minimum wages, at least at this stage? What is more important right now for the workers?
Whatever the platform companies giving the offers is last few months back, like every festival times, aggregator companies giving per ride starting 80 rupees, now 60 rupees, and after some time 40 rupees, sometime 20, now giving 5 rupees, 10 rupees, 20 rupees per order. That is, we are not accepted. We are asking from the old, whatever the payout system should be, you are offering with the workers, that is should be immediately you should implement it. That is first demand.
Yes.
Second, 10-minute delivery immediately platforms, all the aggregated platforms should be removed. This is not needly and not necessary. And third, deactivation, thousands of delivery workers and gig workers has facing the problem immediately. That deactivation should take back, and deactivation when you have to immediately transparency with whatever my ID should block, what the purpose of my ID should be blocked immediately with response with proper way. After you can block that ID without any information, without any that you have not blocked my ID. That Correct. Is the we have to simply we are asking the demands from the platform companies. We are ready to sit to discuss with the platform companies. The mediation with the government should be kindly interfering in this matter. We have to ready to discuss with companies, but companies still now last 5 days not responding. This is our pain. Why we are? You see, today still morning you have Amitabh Bachchan, whatever I don't know, Amitabh Bachchan and Tamanna, and comes on the ads. How to spend Swiggy and Zomato to 2 दिन आप प्लेटफॉर्म पे आ जाओ, काम करो, 6,000 रुपए कमा के लेके जाओ. Amitabh Bachchan has said one ad, आप अपने मम्मी के लिए ईवी इलेक्ट्रिक गाड़ी लेके दे सकते गिफ्ट, आ जाओ प्लेटफॉर्म पे 31st के दिन काम करो. And one side Zomato has threatening from the workers, other hand send the notices from the official
Yes.
the notification from the apps. This is not good way. And one more thing I said behind of you, we are very digital strike. Okay, this strike should be flash strike. We are announced very clear. Okay, we are sit together wherever the house and family members and restaurant, hotel, park. Just we are off my ID, log out my ID, we are sit. Just 3 hours, 4 hours, whatever the demand time, those are already the warehouses and Instamart know very well. That's way immediately you can log out 2, 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours as you wish. You don't go on that platform, you can don't give that job. Again, third party like Shadowfax and Rapido giving the offers from these platform, third party platforms. You एक राइड के लिए 70 रुपीज 60 रुपीज लेके आप प्लेटफॉर्म पे जुड़ के काम करिए. अरे हम वही तो पूछ रहे जो हमारे को रेगुलर प्लेटफॉर्म पे देना चाहिए. That is not accepted. Again, third party given that same order that platform Shadowfax and Rapido, why not Swiggy and Zomato given that your platform? That is my question, and we are ready to discuss. These problems will be short out. We are not ready. That is secondary, but we are ready ना. हम बात करने के लिए ready है. Collective bargaining, चलो बैठ के बातचीत करेंगे.
Madhav, you are kind of smiling through this, but you tell us, why would companies not want to sit down and sort this out?
You know why? Because I've been listening to the gentleman very patiently in the last 5 minutes, and actually this entire space doesn't work like कि पहले 70 रुपए दे रहे थे, आज 20 रुपए दे रहे हैं. There is a science behind it. There is something called earnings per hour. Every city works at a certain EPH metric, right? Platforms are maintaining and growing the EPH month on month, quarter on quarter to ensure every gig rider's earnings are growing, right? When the density increases and there are more orders in a certain radius, in a certain polygon, the rate card per order reduces. However, the rider earning per hour is still maintained and is still growing, right? So at the end of the day, the rider, if he was earlier earning 1,000 rupees a day or 1,100 rupees a day, he's still earning 1,100 rupees. It's just gamified in a way where his per order seems a little lower, but his incentives and his login bonuses, etc., are mapped and they're trued up to the same amount. So platforms will keep changing the rate cards every Monday to Sunday. This typically works Monday to Sunday, right? Every Monday to Sunday, they will keep changing it to solve different problems. But the problem nowhere is cost. The problem, they want to retain their fleets, they want to retain their riders. And that is the backbone of the entire platform. The backbone is not the dark stores. The backbone is not its customers. The actual backbone, the person taking the packet of chips from the dark store to the customer is that rider, right? So it feels as if 70 rupees se 20 rupees.
But what about the algorithmic punishment that we're talking about as well? And
100% होगा. ID तो block होगी ना. अगर rider गलत काम करेगा, customer के घर जाके, if he ends up going to the customer's house and in a half drunken state, or if he's creating nuisance, of course his ID will be blocked.
Dr. Bhatia wants to come in. Yes, go ahead.
Yes, I would like to respond to many of the things that have come up. The first is Madhavji is mentioning about some science behind. So we actually in our study itself took screenshots of over 1,500 such rides, and we found that there was actually no science, no rationale behind the arbitrary rates that were being offered and how they were being deducted. Also, there's something called occupancy rate. If the demand is rising, and if you're saying it's actually a very fair interplay of demand and supply, then let me ask you a question. Why is it that there are lakhs and lakhs of cars and vehicles that are being allowed in Delhi NCR, for example, where, it's actually way beyond the occupancy level. So you are actually disrupting the demand and supply logic. That's one. Second, you are mentioning about... another point that came up was about the growth. If workers are not earning enough, how will they actually spend? What about the workers' productivity, right? So the economic growth is not about only platforms being able to
Madhav is trying to rebut that. I'm running short of time, but Madhav, you have a counter to that?
And also ID block, last point.
Just one sec. Let me just get through because
there is no grievance on the part of the workers. ID blocks are only if I as a customer just does a lesser rating at my own whim and fancy. You cannot block the ID of the worker without actually cross-checking and listening.
So you're saying there needs to be transparency as well. There is a question of transparency, even if you're going to do this, and this is the nature of the beast of the business.
Why getting scared of the tripartite or a collective bargaining working arrangement where you can put your points ahead and the workers can put their points ahead. So it's very important to also take into account the workers' side of the story when you're arbitrarily,
Madhav, let me allow Madhav, because I'm running short of time, to just kind of come in on all the points you're making. Madhav, go ahead.
I mean, absolute transparency. Nobody here is talking about people earning less money. Please understand, in all of these cities, the minimum wage is 13,000, 15,000, 17,000. These are all people sitting without degrees, with a zero filing PAN, came from the village, became a Zomato, Swiggy, Zepto, Instamart, Blinkit rider, started earning 45, 50,000 out of nowhere, which are engineering salaries after graduation. And
how do the venture capitalists who are putting in money, Madhavji?
No, I mean, this has
and then
nothing
when
to do
the
with
money runs out, that's what happens to the workers. So the model itself is unsustainable.
So the model needs to be sustainable.
For 15 years.
The point is, the model needs to be sustainable, because at this time we are talking about employment generation in a huge kind of way. The gig economy is growing. The projections seem to paint a lovely picture of what could be in store. At this point in time, these need to be just teething troubles, not more than that. Are we able to iron them out? So one-line answer, these gig workers asking for what they are, is it too much, or just are they asking for basic security in what is a high-speed economy? The takeaway tonight is simple. India's gig workers, they have legal recognition, yes, through the reforms, but they don't have economic security yet. The laws are acknowledging them. The marketplace is still pressuring them. And this strike isn't just about New Year's Eve. For policymakers, it's going to be a moment of course correction. Like Ms. Daura is pointing out, for platforms as well, it's going to be a test of sustainability. And for workers, it's going to be a demand to be seen, not just as users of an app, but as participants in this gig economy. So my thanks to our panelists for bringing out some of these issues. Sumita Daura, Sheikh Salahuddin, Dr. Akriti Bhatia, Madhav Kasturia. Of course, this conversation and debate will carry on, and we will bring up important issues like this one on The Big Question here on NDTV Profit. Thanks for joining us. And that's it. It's a wrap on this edition. I'm Vikramoza from me and the team. Thank you for joining us.